Pakistan authorities have charged jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife under the nation's anti-terrorism laws.
The police are accusing them of inciting violence during days of protests that killed at least 6 and left scores more injured. The nation's main opposition PTI party, founded by Khan, announced the demonstrations on Sunday, calling for the release of the former Prime Minister. His wife, Bushra Bibi, had then been the one to lead thousands of his supporters in the march from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to Islamabad. But deadly clashes began 2 days later when security forces launched a massive midnight raid to push back protesters from the capital.
Now, the PTI claims the police had fired live bullets in the peaceful protest, but authorities say the demonstration was anything but peaceful. They claim the protesters were heavily armed with tear gas launchers, steel rods, and slingshots. Close to 1,000 demonstrators were arrested in the government crackdown.
A prominent Pakistani journalist who was investigating the alleged fatalities during the protests has been arrested. Matiullah Jan was picked up off the streets on Wednesday night hours after reporting that security forces had used firearms to disperse opposition protesters. He cited data from hospital sources and accused the government of hiding the truth.
Police say the journalists have been arrested for terrorism, assaulting law enforcement personnel, and possessing narcotics, charges which Jan denied as fabricated. Human rights groups are demanding his release. They described Jan's arrest as abduction and say it's one of multiple instances where successive Pakistan governments have used the anti-terrorism legislation to quash dissent.
We're joined now by Samina Yasmeen, Director of the Centre for Muslim States and Societies at the University of Western Australia. Professor Yasmeen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So more charges against Khan and his wife, and reportedly a very harsh response to PTI supporters as they were marching on Islamabad a couple of days ago. I want to ask you whether this strategy of snuffing out all opposition is going to work. We know it worked in the short term, obviously, but what about the medium and longer term?
Mm-hmm. I think we have to look at against the background of the true strategies that are working at the same time. One, the government not accepting or snuffing out, as you say, any opposition, and the other one from the PTI led by Imran Khan to tell his supporters wherever they are in Pakistan that they need to put the government under pressure. So these two strategies obviously work on this idea of not giving in. And so that's why what we see is that in case of this more recent clashes, the Islamabad High Court had prohibited PTI from holding demonstrations in the area called D Chowk. But despite that, there was this final call issued, and they went to D Chowk. And of course, when we look at the condition like that, the next strategy from the other side becomes operative as well. And that's where the government decides to go overboard, I'd say, and respond to these people accumulating, gathering in those D Chowks. So I guess these two strategies have to stop. One of niggling the government or pushing the people to go and question the government, and the two, the government responding to that demonstrations with excessive force. If it continues, there are lots of dangers that we can expect for Pakistan to face. One, the simple danger that Pakistan faces when it's already suffering from economic decline, that if you issue a call like that and the government responds to it in a way which I don't think it should have been done, but it responds to it by placing lots of containers, stopping movement of people, movement of goods. So the prices increase. People can't actually live their lives. So there's a further cost to the system. So that can't continue. Already Pakistan has been on the verge of bankruptcy, and for it to continue like this, I think there would be a further decline. But more than that, what I'm concerned about is the way this whole process continues. If we look at what's happened this time, but even previously, KPK or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's chief minister, along with former Prime Minister Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Imran Khan, who is referred to as Bushra Bibi, they led this final call. Uh, what did it say? It basically said that the chief minister of a province, a constituent member of the federation, is leading this march. When you present it like this, and when you talk about the breakup of Pakistan in 1971, you really continuously introduce a language of saying Pakistan can't stay together. It's going to break up. And what's the danger, I think, in this is that it starts creating a narrative of Pakistan imploding from within. I think that's a very dangerous process. And that's the cost that at the moment it might seem bearable to some people in Pakistan who are engaging in these activities, but the cost to people in the whole country is very great. I think in lots of ways for people in Pakistan who are engaging in this pushing and counter pushing is that if we look at what happened in the case of former Yugoslavia, when a large country breaks up like this, with one federating unit saying we can't be there or creating this narrative, the human cost is high, economic cost is high, and the security cost is high. So I guess Pakistan at this stage is at a very critical juncture with
Indeed.
political, economic, and safety future.
Sure, Professor. So, how should they respond then? Call for unity? I mean, should they be more flexible and meet them halfway?
I think, first of all, my suggestion would be that PTI should simply stop this narrative of look at what's happening against the background of 1971. There were different conditions. It was one part of Pakistan versus the other part of Pakistan. At the moment, we're looking at popularity of somebody like Imran Khan across the nation, even though there are other people who don't support PTI or Imran Khan, but it's a united Pakistan's issue. It's not an issue of one province. And so I think that has to stop. And also these occasional frequent calls have to stop. But it's not just simply the PTI that has to change its attitude. At one level, PTI has to be willing to negotiate. And what we see is that there's some groups within PTI who are willing to negotiate, others are not. And so that conflict leads to a complicated or mixed response. But the government has to change its approach as well. You can't keep on responding to any reaction in the way that it was done the other day. Because I think what it creates is a sense of disillusionment and also anger. And given the fact that Pakistan has got a large young population, and these are the people who really support Imran Khan, if even one or two of them decide to take law and order in their own hand later on, or join, as some people are pointing out, the terrorist outfits, Pakistan has already been facing terrorism. That threat would increase. So I think the government also has to reconsider both the sides, including the military, has to come to the table and say,
Right.
this is our country, we have to work for it.
Okay, I want to ask you, Professor, about how other Pakistanis feel about what's happening right now. Obviously, Imran Khan, as you were saying, is very popular, and obviously the PTI is very much in favor of doing what he's asking for. But do you see support from other Pakistanis, or are they, as you were saying, more focused on the economy and cost of living issues?
See, the two sides that I often observe in Pakistan, if it's only at the level of saying, let's go and demonstrate, everybody's willing to join in. But then when it comes to actual demonstrations, you start seeing the fault lines emerging. Because if you talk to ordinary people, as I was talking to some people last night, it's the impact on everyday life of the people that starts creating a sense that maybe what's going on is not right. For example, somebody alerted me to the fact that because they weren't able to get vegetables, because there isn't any trucks taking goods and services around, the price has gone up. Now, in a country where the per capita income has constantly gone down and the purchasing power has gone down, that creates a pressure. So there are people who are diehard supporters of Imran Khan, but there are others who are not that vocal, but they are critical of what's happening from PTI. And especially that criticism is increasing because of the way Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Imran Khan, or Bushra Bibi, decided to leave the demonstrations after telling other people who were with her to say she would be sitting there till Imran Khan is released. Now, I think when that happens, there is this talk emerging that PTI is basically using the youth and its power base in KPK to push young people to be attacked by the government when its leadership runs away when the time comes to really stand up for their.
Right.
So that creates a questioning of, is it really for themselves or is it for the country? So
Right.
there is an alternative view there, which I think is not being given enough airtime.
Right. Professor, I want to ask you about the role of the police, the paramilitaries, and of course the army as well. The army, were deployed, not actually called into action, but the police and paramilitaries, I believe, were in action. I want to ask you what role they play, in terms of what we're seeing in Pakistan right now. I mean, there's a long history of involvement by the military. As it stands, they seem to be loyal, but is this loyalty going to be firm?
Look, what I have observed is that military as a unit remains very united. They have an opinion, and the chief of army staff or the top leadership, once it's decided, it gets carried through. But what's also emerging is that a number of these officials, once they retire, they reassess their opinions. And if we see the way the support base for Imran Khan has expanded, there are people who are retired from the military, both the commissioned and non-commissioned officers, who come up with statements that are very pro-Imran Khan. There were some demonstrations or events that the PTI organized when Imran Khan was not in jail, where a number of retired military officials would go attend these events with their families. Also, the non-commissioned people as well. So I don't have any data on that, or I don't have any solid information. But if we just extend this idea of the fact that there has been another opinion from the retired military officials, we can expect that within the military, these ideas also may be emerging.
Okay.
And that's another concern, because I think what we're seeing is the possibility of military itself coming up with different narratives of what needs to be done. So the idea of the united Pakistan military and with one command, that could be questioned. And
Okay.
it's not unthinkable, because it's, at least the signs of that have been seen very early in Pakistan's history as well.
All right, Professor, I mean, it was a very interesting conversation, but we'll have to leave it there for now. But thank you very much for your time this morning. We were speaking with Samina Yasmeen, a director at the Center for Muslim States and Societies at the University of Western Australia.